All good things must come to an end, and unfortunately we are getting very close to the end of Metroid Zero Mission. But we still have a ton of cleanup to do and a lot of items to get, so we're gonna be at this for a little bit longer. So, a lot of the items in the Chozodia area require effective use of the speed booster to obtain. We already saw that one super missile requiring some not exactly tricky use of it, but use of it regardless. And an upcoming item up here requiring us to chain shine sparks on these ledges. Even down onto this one, really, if you're not super duper fast to get through this wall. And, yeah, don't ask how you're supposed to know that's there. If you have to ask that question, the answer is usually, it's Metroid, you bomb everywhere, you find things, that's how it goes. Now, for the most part, this episode, and really even the next, are just going to be going around collecting a bunch of random items that happen to, just be on our way to our next main destination, and I'll point that out when we get there, but I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about why I like this game so much in a bit more of a focused terms. I've said before, perhaps, that I feel like this game controls the best out of all the 2D Metroids that Nintendo has published. I still hold that to be true, and the reason... It's difficult to describe unless you've played the other games in the series, but there's a certain fluidity to the way Metroid Zero Mission controls that I feel just isn't there in either Fusion or Super Metroid. There's something very innately quick and responsive, I guess fluid is the best term for it, where Samus just feels so responsive, like you can put her anywhere you can see. Like, the limitations of Samus are very obvious and innate once you've actually, just played a little bit and gotten a feel for how it works. Her limitations are very obvious, and how you can circumvent them starts to become clear, especially after you get certain powers. Super Metroid, I feel like, is a lot floatier and less precise of a game in terms of controls, and I don't think it controls badly. I don't think there's a single 2D Metroid game out there besides maybe the NES one that controls poorly. But it's a very stark contrast to play this game and then go back and play Super, where Samus is a lot floatier, a lot slower actually, I would say. And there's something innately dissatisfying about how slowly she plays in that game compared to this one. I find the snappier and generally more fast controls of Zero Mission to be a lot more satisfying to work with than something slower and more methodical like Super or Fusion. And again, not to say that either of those are bad games, but that Zero Mission nailed something that neither of them did, which was a satisfying sense of precision and snappiness to them that just makes it really satisfying to play. With Super Metroid, I feel like Samus has a lot less limitations overall, sure, but it also feels less satisfying because those limitations are so much more, well, they're not as much concrete as they are in this game. It's a difficult balance, too, because I know a lot of people praise Super Metroid for how freely Samus can just kinda do whatever, even without some of the supposedly essential power-ups in that game. And again, I don't think Super Metroid is a bad game. I don't think Fusion is a bad game either. I just think Zero Mission nailed the speed and control of Samus more than any other game before it in a 2D plane. And that's something I don't really hear talked about a lot I guess just in Metroid in general, is how the control works. You don't really hear a lot of discussions about Metroid's controls outside of the Prime series when people are comparing the first two games to Corruption and the Trilogy versions. And that's a real shame because in the Metroidvania genre in general, I feel like control is probably the most important thing to consider next to level design. Those are the two grand pillars of this genre, are how it controls and how the levels are designed. And really, you don't hear the controls aspect discussed that much because for most people, I feel, acceptable or decent controls are good enough. And I'm inclined to somewhat agree with that, because good or decent controls don't detract from a game by any means, but great controls or amazing controls can add so much, and I feel like Zero Mission is a perfect example of that. I'm of the opinion that Zero Mission has some of the best level design in the series, and I've said that before, but I feel like what elevates this to being one of my favorite Metroid games, and I guess even one of my favorite games, is that it combines excellent and yet super simple and easy to understand controls with level design that just meshes so well with the open nature of the genre. Super Metroid does some amazing things with level design, don't get me wrong, but I feel like its controls can feel awkward or fall short in a lot of instances. I feel like Zero Mission succeeds in its controls in the areas where Super Metroid failed, and the sacrifice to some of the freedom that Super Metroid allowed is worth it for the precise and snappiness of the controls in Zero Mission. But that's just me, I suppose, at the end of the day. Moving on to actually new things, we just got power bombs. You remember those, right? They happened in back there in the stealth seat. No, you don't. Okay, fair enough. Well, we have them now, and as you can see, I just laid one in that room and am just leaving, not even bothering to go through that door. See, the annoying thing is, enemies in Chozodia don't drop any power-ups. Well, any refills, I should say. More accurately, it's just the space pirates and the security eyeballs that don't. The electrical things do drop energy, but if you want to restore your weapons, you have to visit a save station, and we need 2 power bombs, actually, in order to get the actual stuff behind that door down there. Which is kind of annoying on hard mode, because all the power bomb tanks only give you 1 each. So you have to lay down a bomb there, leave, refill, then come back and use another one after you've already... It's complicated and dumb and silly. But our reward is more power bombs, so I guess that kinda solves our issues a little bit. Not much, but a little bit. I also really don't care about those security lasers because, honestly, we're so close to the save station and Samus just jumps into things and kills them. That's how she's operated for a while now, and that's how she'll continue to operate for the foreseeable future. So yeah, expect a lot of return trips to the save stations to refill on those power bombs, because we do need that for a fair number of items left in the cleanup. It's a power bomb and speed booster show from here on out for the most part, so if you're not a fan of either of those items, you're probably not going to be too into what's coming up here, but, well, I happen to actually really like both, so it works out. So at this point, we're just heading back through the Space Pirate Mothership because there's this very specific spot we want to head to now that we have power bombs. I believe this is the only way we can go to lead us to the rest of cleanup. There might be another couple of rooms we could check, but I've always just used this one because it's the fastest one. But at this point, yeah, we're just kind of making our way back through here. It's a little bit boring for this part because we're going through territory we've already been through like 2 or 3 times or something. No, only twice. What am I saying? Also, that robot right there, bane of my existence. You'll figure out why later. If we want to get through this part more quickly, we have to go through those speed booster blocks. We could just bomb down there, but I wanted to try and be fancy. Didn't work out, but it was still faster probably than trying to bomb through all of that stuff. So, hey. This is the alternate path you could take to get to this super missile that we got earlier, but, well, I got it earlier, so there's that. It does serve as a nice shortcut, though, and there's save station's fairly close by, so using a powerbomb there doesn't really lose us much. The Black Pirates, by the way, I should mention those guys, because we saw one of them earlier and they kind of kicked our ass a little bit. They have so much health that it's not even funny. And the only weapon that works on them is your beam. Powerbombs don't do anything. Super missiles, jack shit. Regular missiles, you're kidding me. So on top of having a lot of health and doing a lot of damage, the only weapon you can use is arguably your weakest one. Not a great time. They're in keeping with pirate tradition, though, not exactly the smartest creatures in the galaxy. And we'll be seeing a clear example of that later on. I'm just going to leave it at that. But we're almost to our destination here. Remember where we started this whole stealth sequence? That's where we're headed right now, because there was a powerbomb block that I pointed out way back when, last episode. Oh, it was so long ago I can barely remember it. And now that we have those, we actually can get to it. One annoying thing is that if you have the alarm going, save stations are not active, even if you kill all the enemies in the save room. So you have to clear out the room beforehand and then enter it, and it's kind of annoying, but ultimately doesn't matter a ton. And thankfully this music still plays somewhere in the game. I always forget that it actually plays here, so I'm always surprised when it actually has a spot that it does play at after you've botched the stealth sequence. So here we are. Place where I pointed out power bombs earlier. It leads to a power bomb itself. Who'd have thunk? Yeah, power bombs. That's something I want to talk about actually. For both Zero Mission, well, mostly Zero Mission, I guess. Power bombs in this game are more of a trophy item than anything else. They come at a time where you've only got one boss left in the entire game, unless you like skipped a couple of the mini bosses in the rest of the game or something and went back to them. I don't know, maybe you did that. But their utility as far as combat goes is fairly non-existent, all things considered. They serve more as like a key to unlocking all the rest of the items in the game more than anything else, which is why finding extra powerbomb tanks kinda sucks after a certain point, because once you've got like 2 or 3, you're pretty good to go as far as finding all the other relevant items is, but powerbombs just don't serve a whole lot of purpose outside of collecting other items, and I feel like that's kind of a waste, honestly. They're in what is essentially the post-game of Zero Mission, and they don't even do anything to the final boss. Like, I'm just gonna say right now, they're completely useless in that fight. But in most other games, they have some sort of combat use, like Other M, for all the things that game did. Its gameplay was alright, and you know what it did right with powerbombs? It made them a force to be reckoned with. Of course, it served a similar issue that Zero Mission did, where it made them basically post-game only, but that's a story for another time. Also, I screwed up a little bit there, and we're going to have to go into the past here to see what that was actually supposed to do, because, yeah, that's what's supposed to happen, but I fucked up and accidentally left the screen after I'd already laid the powerbomb, which made the game think that it was already broken or something. I don't know exactly how it works. It's probably some flag that gets set after you've laid a powerbomb. Also, this room, a lot less boring if you actually manage to get the shine spark correctly. Just throwing that out there. More powerbombs. Who'da thunk? Now with that glass tube broken, we're actually able to go back to the rest of the game, believe it or not. The area we're coming up to here will lead us on a path that leads us straight back into the very heart of the Caverns of Zebes, and really the rest of the game we've kind of left behind. So that's going to be exciting, because there's a few items there that we never were able to get to. You might be able to remember some of them even. And ignore those speed booster blocks up there. I'm sure they're not important. But that, and so much more, is going to have to wait until next time, where we'll collect the last few items and get ready to finish this thing off. This has taken a lot more real time than I would have liked it to, but hey, stuff happens. I'll see you guys next time.